Welcome back to Iraqi Dinar Hub, where we cut through the noise of the mainstream financial cycle to bring you the developments that truly matter in the world of global currency. Consider for a moment the possibility that an item you may have casually placed in a drawer years ago, dismissed as a mere souvenir from a past vacation or a small speculative purchase, could actually be sitting at the center of a massive global financial realignment. For years, the narrative surrounding foreign currency holding has been dismissed by the average person as a fantasy, a story told by optimists hoping for a windfall that never comes. Most people look at leftover foreign banknotes and see nothing more than paper memories, believing that the static value of these notes is permanent. However, we are currently witnessing a convergence of signals from the legitimate financial world. Central banks, international organizations, and private institutional platforms that suggests the narrative is fundamentally changing. Today, we are moving beyond surface-level rumors to examine why the Vietnamese dong is increasingly becoming the focus of intense scrutiny by traders, analysts, and international regulatory bodies alike. To truly grasp the magnitude of what is unfolding with the Vietnamese dong, we must first look away from the currency itself and focus on the nation that issues it. Vietnam has quietly but aggressively undergone one of the most compelling economic evolutions in Southeast Asia. Over the last 2 decades, what was once an economy almost entirely dependent on rice production, fisheries, and small-scale agriculture has transformed into a diversified, globally competitive industrial powerhouse. This shift was not an accident of history, but the result of deliberate strategic political reforms and aggressive foreign investment policies. The country has successfully positioned itself as a premier alternative to China for manufacturing, capitalizing on global logistical risks and geopolitical tensions to attract billions in foreign capital. When you see major global technology leaders building massive factories and research hubs within Vietnam, it becomes clear that the country's economic bedrock has fundamentally hardened, providing a tangible justification for a re-evaluation of its monetary standing. Despite this undeniable surge in economic strength and industrial output, the Vietnamese dong has remained artificially low for a very long time. Historically, this was an intentional strategy maintained by Vietnamese policymakers to support export competitiveness. By keeping their currency undervalued, Vietnam ensured that its textiles, electronics, and agricultural goods remained attractively priced for international buyers, thereby securing massive trade surpluses. However, the global economic environment is shifting rapidly, and the pressure for greater transparency and fair value currency policies is pushing the nation toward a critical turning point. We are now seeing indications that the days of artificially suppressing the currency may be numbered as international lenders and foreign exchange monitoring bodies exert pressure on emerging markets to modernize their monetary frameworks. This is no longer just about local policy. It is about Vietnam integrating fully into the high standards of the global financial ecosystem. The evidence for this potential shift is not just found in public news briefings, but is arguably visible in the deeper, often opaque layers of the financial world. Within private banking circles, specifically those operating on institutional platforms rather than consumer-facing levels, there has been a distinct increase in chatter supported by observable shifts in internal systems. High-level banks maintain proprietary rate sheets that occasionally update ahead of public Forex markets to reflect anticipated changes based on liquidity behavior and policy movements. Recent reports suggest that several of these internal sheets have shown unusual patterns regarding the Vietnamese dong. These are not the standard fluctuations one sees on a travel exchange board. These are signals typically monitored by analysts watching for pre-adjustment positioning, suggesting that the financial infrastructure is being quietly prepped for a valuation change that the general public has not yet seen. Adding to this intrigue are the leaks and projections currently circulating among financial insiders which indicate potential post-adjustment values that are drastically different from the current exchange rates. While we must always approach specific numbers with caution, The range of value being discussed in these professional circles points to a significant recalibration. At the same time, there have been observations of digital banking systems within Vietnam undergoing back-end updates designed to accommodate recalibrated balances and denomination corrections. When a nation's banking software is updated to handle different decimal placements or rounding adjustments, it is often a technical precursor to a monetary policy shift. These are the tangible, albeit quiet, mechanics of a revaluation event, the digital plumbing being laid down before the water is turned on. Furthermore, Vietnam is not navigating this transition in isolation. The emerging monetary alignment appears to be deeply potentially interwoven with the guidance of major global institutions. The International Monetary Fund, IMF, has been actively engaging with Vietnam in areas such as reserve strengthening, sovereign debt balancing, and inflation management. To the untrained eye, these seem like standard bureaucratic procedures, but to those who follow currency reform, these are classic preconditions for a country preparing to shift away from a suppressed currency regime. The IMF typically works through structured reviews to prepare economies for more transparent monetary policies, ensuring that when a currency is allowed to float or revalue, the national economy can absorb the shock and capitalize on the new valuation. Similarly, the Asian Development Bank has been collaborating with Vietnam on capital flow stability and the modernization of its monetary infrastructure, including digital payment architecture. These reforms align closely with what is required for a currency to move into a fairer valuation range. When multiple international organizations begin supporting convergent policy upgrades within the same time frame, it is rarely a coincidence. Instead, it often reflects a coordinated trajectory toward a new economic phase. The combination of regulatory restructuring, digital modernization, and reserve policy shifts strongly suggests that Vietnam's long-term monetary strategy has entered a transitionary stage. If these indicators prove accurate, the influence of such a move would ripple far beyond Vietnam, prompting neighboring emerging markets to reassess their own valuation strategies in a domino effect of regional economic maturation. For the individual who may have purchased Vietnamese dong years ago as part of a diversification strategy or simply out of curiosity, these macro developments hold significant weight. If a revaluation occurs on the scale that projections suggest, the operational landscape for exchanging that currency will likely be very different from walking into a local bank branch. Today, reports from North America, Europe, and Asia indicate that specialized redemption centers have begun structuring internal procedures for potential high-value exchanges. These are not typical retail counters. They are facilities designed to handle large foreign currency transactions complete with rigorous compliance screenings and authentication checks. It is becoming increasingly clear that in the event of a major currency shift, the process of exchange will be highly regulated and distinct from standard consumer banking. The anticipated procedures at these specialized centers highlight the seriousness of the potential event. It is likely that access to these facilities will require appointments, and individuals will not simply be able to walk in off the street with a bag of currency. Requirements will almost certainly include proof of purchase, certificates of authenticity, and strict documentation verifying lawful acquisition. In an era of heightened global security, individuals should expect to undergo background checks designed to prevent money laundering or the illicit use of revalued funds. The forming infrastructure suggests that major institutions are positioning themselves to manage a transfer of wealth that is legal, compliant, and meticulously documented rather than chaotic or informal. This brings us to the vital importance of preparation. If your goal is to position yourself correctly for a potential public revaluation, you cannot afford to approach this casually or reactively. Preparation is not about hoping for a windfall. It is about ensuring that if the opportunity arises, you can move through the process smoothly without stumbling over avoidable obstacles. This includes securing your holdings, organizing your documentation, researching compliant exchange options, and seeking professional guidance. Many people underestimate how critical these administrative steps are until they are faced with time-sensitive decisions in a high-pressure environment. By preparing now quietly and methodically, you position yourself to take advantage of a systemic shift that others may miss simply because they were disorganized. The absolute first step in this preparation phase is the physical security of your assets. If you currently have Vietnamese dong stored in a shoebox, an envelope, or an unsecured cabinet, it is time to elevate your approach and treat the currency like an asset with real potential value. Fire, theft, and water damage are unpredictable threats, and losing physical currency is functionally the same as burning cash. There are no replacements and no insurance claims for lost banknotes in most scenarios. A fireproof safe in your home is a solid baseline option. While a bank safety deposit box offers off-site protection, the key is to treat these paper notes with the same level of seriousness you would apply to gold, bullion, or essential legal deeds. Beyond physical safeguarding, you must meticulously document what you own. You should take the time to record the denominations and the total count of your bills and ideally record serial numbers for your larger notes. These records should be kept both physically and digitally. Store one written copy in a secure location separate from the currency itself and store another copy in an encrypted digital format, such as a protected cloud drive with two-factor authentication. This documentation not only helps you verify your holdings for your own peace of mind, but may serve as a critical protective measure if future regulations require proof of quantity during the exchange process. In a moment of rapid financial transition, those with organized records will be far ahead of those scrambling to count their holdings. Equally important is the preservation of the paperwork associated with your original purchase. Many people buy foreign currency and discard the receipts, not realizing that these documents could become the chain of custody required for verification during a structured exchange. Whether you purchased from a dealer, a bank, or an online platform, any receipts, invoices, certificates of authenticity, or transaction emails must be collected and stored in one organized location. Do not rely solely on physical copies as thermal paper fades and documents get lost. Digitize everything immediately. Scan your documents and store them in password-protected folders. When redemption time comes, institutions may require proof of the date of acquisition to satisfy anti-money laundering statutes. This leads to the necessity of research regarding where you might eventually transact. It is important to understand that asking your local bank teller if they exchange VND today is not the primary goal. The goal is to identify which institutions have the capability to handle foreign currency departments and international banking compliance. When conducting this research, it is advisable to avoid speculative terminology like RV or revaluation, as these terms can trigger red flags or dismissive responses from banking staff. Instead, position yourself as a client seeking information about policies for exchanging substantial amounts of foreign currency in general. You are gathering intelligence on their verification procedures and third-party authentication partnerships, not trying to convince them of a coming event. As you gather this information, the necessity of professional guidance becomes undeniable. The fourth and perhaps most critical step is consulting a fiduciary financial advisor. It is essential to distinguish between a true fiduciary who is legally obligated to act in your best interest and a general wealth manager or insurance broker who may be chasing commissions. If a significant exchange occurs, the tax implications could be substantial and complex. Structured strategies such as staged exchanges, trust formations, or specific asset reinvestment vehicles may dramatically improve your long-term outcome. A professional can help you remain compliant with reporting requirements, ensuring that you do not lose a significant portion of your value to poor tax planning or regulatory oversight. We must also address the darker side of these financial shifts: the proliferation of scams. The moment legitimate opportunities begin to surface, illegitimate actors multiply to prey on the uninformed. Scammers thrive in environments where people are hopeful and uncertain, often claiming to have special redemption windows or exclusive rates. If you act immediately, you must understand that no legitimate institution will approach you through unsolicited emails or social media messages offering a private exchange. Ignore these communications entirely. Scammers may pose as government contractors or authorized agents using high-pressure tactics to convince people to hand over money or personal data. Your safety depends on your skepticism and your adherence to verified professional banking channels. In the online space, Be particularly cautious of anonymous figures and forums claiming to have inside knowledge or backdoor access. These environments can often become breeding grounds for misinformation and manipulation. As momentum builds around the Vietnamese dong, more people will likely be targeted by these schemes. Protect yourself by establishing strict personal rules. Verify everything, trust nothing unconfirmed, and never let a sense of urgency override your logic. Scams thrive on chaos, so your best defense is to remain calm, organized, and detached from the emotional highs and lows of the rumor mill. Stick to official sources and licensed professionals. Let us now zoom out to the larger global context, because what is happening with the Vietnamese dong is not an isolated phenomenon. It is part of a broader systemic realignment in global finance that includes the movement toward dollarization. For decades, the US dollar has dominated international trade, but cracks in that monopoly are becoming visible as emerging markets seek greater autonomy. The rise of economic blocs like BRICS and the increasing number of developing nations establishing alternative payment networks are evidence of a desire for a multipolar financial world. Vietnam is aligning itself with this new framework, and its anticipated currency shift reflects a desire to move toward fairer valuations and increased participation in a diversified global monetary ecosystem. This global evolution is not a random fluctuation. It is a structural change where nations are seeking to leverage their true economic output against their currency's value. The questions we receive most frequently often center on timing. While no one outside of official channels can provide a specific date for a rate change, the internal banking updates we discussed earlier serve as the most reliable barometer. Historically, once institutional platforms adjust their back-end systems, public half-facing Forex markets eventually follow. This is not immediate. It is a synchronization process that ripples across international networks. Observers should pay close attention to digital banking updates in the region, as these are often the technical precursors to public announcements. Another common question is regarding the exchange rate itself and whether everyone will receive the same value. In nearly all major currency adjustments involving institutional exchanges, tiered systems are standard practice. Larger verified holdings often qualify for structured agreements or incentivized rates designed to keep capital within the banking system, whereas smaller retail exchanges may operate on a different tier. This is not a conspiracy. It is standard liquidity management used by banks to prevent massive capital flight. Understanding this possibility helps holders manage their expectations and reinforces the need for professional advice on how to navigate potential tiered structures. Ultimately, the difference between a successful navigation of this event and a missed opportunity lies in one word: strategy. Simply owning the currency is not the same as having a plan for it. The individuals who succeed during times of major financial transition are not the loudest voices in the chat rooms, nor are they the ones chasing every rumor. They are the quiet, disciplined individuals who prepare deliberately. They do not advertise their holdings or seek validation from strangers. Instead, they document their assets, consult fiduciaries, secure their physical currency, and think in terms of long-term wealth preservation rather than immediate spending. We may well be standing at the threshold of one of the most significant monetary events of the decade, one that mainstream financial media has largely ignored until now. But for those paying close attention, the shift is palpable. The calm before the public recognition phase is the most valuable time you have. Your readiness, your paperwork, your organization, and your mindset will determine whether you are simply watching history unfold on a screen or actively participating in it. This is not about prediction. It is about positioning yourself so that you are ready for whatever reality transpires. The Vietnamese dong is transitioning from a forgotten foreign note into a key player in a new financial era. The world is changing, moving away from outdated frameworks and centralized reserve dependency toward a multi-layer landscape where digital assets and emerging market currencies share influence. At times like this, your next move is decisive. Staying informed keeps you ahead of the noise, and staying focused prevents emotional detours. When the shift becomes public, many will react with confusion. Those who prepared quietly will move forward with confidence. You are witnessing the early stages of a global financial transition. Stay prepared, stay focused, and stay informed. This is Iraqi Dinar Hub signing. Rewrite the following script with same length of each paragraph.